Lake Lewis, always kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda hotline for a couple minutes, talk a little NFL with him. How you been, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, Q? How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, listen, did you ever inadvertently text message the wrong person? And you probably...
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. You know, by your laugh.
Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't a good one either.
Yeah. We will leave it at that. Drive Time Radio. All right. So, speaking of taking a couple here on the chin, how about the Washington Redskins with some of these injuries? I mean, I said to Josh the other day, Lake, I said a couple years ago, it reminded me of the Giants with all these preseason injuries. That can be extremely disheartening and deflating to a franchise, but they've been getting hit with some major injuries.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, losing Darius Geis was a huge blow because he was a guy that was, going to give them something that, frankly, they hadn't had in several years, at least with Jay Gruden being there. And that's just an effective running game where a running back can give you a home run, threat outside of Chris Thompson. I mean, Chris Thompson's a third down specialist, pass catching back. But to have a workhorse back to go with Chris, that would have been nice to have seen Darius Geis. So now you have to wait till next year. Robert Davis is another young receiver that they liked quite a bit. I wasn't sure if Robert was going to make the initial 53-man roster again this year. I thought maybe they may put him on the practice squad again and then move him up like they did last year when he was a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
But he, totally shredded his knee up, and he's out for the year as well. So then they've got some other guys that were, they've been nicked up. So the injury bug, too, it just seems like it does not leave this football team. And last year they were decimated with injuries. And, they just have to be careful. Game coming up Thursday night, and they have two more after that. I just don't know how much, I want to play my frontline guys. And I know they need the work, and there's some new pieces in place where you want them to get some kind of continuity. But you have to get them ready for Arizona, which is week 1.
What about they cut Scandrick, and it looks like they're content with rolling out a bunch of young corners. I mean, is there any thought of bringing back Breland, or is Gruden pretty
No.
Okay, so he's pretty confident with that, or I should say at least has confidence in the young secondary.
Yeah, I mean, and don't forget, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie's still out there too.
Right.
He's a guy that they entertained here, in the offseason as far as coming in as a free agent, and he's still out there. I mean, now the asking price has to come down. All these free agents who wanted a lot of money, they're still available now. They're going to have to come down a little bit in price. So perhaps the Redskins take a look at him, but I can tell you from being at every training camp practice, those young players have really caught the eye of a lot of us. And it's the competition. The Redskins, for the first time, I think, since Jay Gruden has been here, they have depth. And they have a lot of young, talented guys. And frankly, those guys were outplaying Scandrick. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
And he didn't really endear himself to a lot of his teammates and coaches either. I can safely say that. There were some internal things going on too, which I think also led to them getting rid of him, considering he was being outplayed by some of these young guys.
Now, were you done with training camp, or are you still out there daily leading up to the season? And the reason I didn't want to catch you off guard with the if you had a chance to see Darnold with the Jets. I know they had those practices, and I know Josh Norman was okay
there every day.
what and I figured you were, because you're always on the grind with this team.
Right,
what were your initial first thoughts of Darnold?
He's poised. I mean, it's like, you see a lot of rookies, and they make rookie mistakes, and sometimes the throws they make they don't look like professional throws. Like, they have to get used to doing that. Well, this guy just looks like he's got some kind of moxie about him, and he's a rather quiet guy. So that's the one thing I was looking for, to see if he's a raw type of leader, and he's not. He's
right.
More of a just go out there and produce type guy. But I was impressed too. I mean, I really was. I'll be honest with you. I was impressed with him and Teddy Bridgewater as well. I thought Bridgewater looked pretty good. And I've heard from someone in the Jets that, Bridgewater could possibly be trade bait, that I don't think they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. And I think you have to have a veteran to go with Darnold. So it looks like it would be McCown as your number 2 if they decide to start Darnold right away. And maybe Bridgewater is trade bait. But I was impressed with him. I really was looking at he made some nice throws, showed arm strength, showed a lot of touch. he looks like a keeper. The Jets have themselves a for real young quarterback.
Yeah, and it's amazing. When was the last time you actually said the Jets have a position of power with the quarterback play, right? I mean, think about it. You got McCown, you got Bridgewater, and you have Darnold. And I was telling Josh this during the break, the 1 o'clock hour, and I just threw it in his ear. I said, look, I don't know how sold the Giants are on Webb, but if Darnold's going to be a week 1 starter, week 2, and I think the kid's going to come in, and I think he is going to play from the get-go. I think they're dying for a quarterback. The Jets are, to give that fan base something to hang their hat on, especially in that market. To me, if the Giants aren't totally sold on Webb and Bridgewater's out there and he's got that upside, he's only 25, 26. I mean,
they're going to have to leave the building.
Yeah.
Just walk to the other end zone, other locker room.
Yeah.
I honestly would consider that, because you and I both know the Giants' whole season hinges on what Eli Manning are you going to get.
Yep.
And if you get the guy that's won some Super Bowls, this is going to be a dangerous football team. And we already know about the line and things like that. I do think Will Hernandez helps them quite a bit. They folded too on left tackle, but it all goes down to Eli. And if he struggles early, do you really think Webb is the guy that's going to ignite a flame there? No, not at all.
No, he's not. And as listen, I think they will score. My problem with them is, even watching a preseason game, that's a team that's not going to show your hand. Cleveland decided we're going to show the hand because we're on Hard Knocks. We want the NFL. We want a little bite. We want a little juice. We want the fans to know that we're going to be competitive. The Giants typically don't do that, and they'll shut it down. But I saw a couple things that just reminded me of the past couple years, to be honest with you, with their line. I mean, even the run with Barkley, if he's in college, he can outrun guys to off tackle to the right. You can't do that in the pros. So once again, you're going to get in these 3rd and longs, and you're going up against a team that can get to the quarterback at times, like Washington and Dallas, and then especially the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm not entirely sold on this whole revamped offense. And I'll tell you something else. If they do score, which would be a plus, because they can't score, they haven't scored over the last several years, then who's to say they're
stop anybody?
Well, that's exactly, especially in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, if they have the lead, how do you play with the lead? How do you let your defense go out there and make some plays? I am not as sold on that defense as a lot of people are, especially when it comes to the pass rushers.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Someone just asked me this yesterday on another broadcast. Who's the dark horse team in the NFC East? And I hate it to sound like a homer, but I think it's the team I cover, to be honest with you. I'm telling you, you look at the Giants and you look at the Cowboys. Yeah, they have Barkley, I'm a big guy, so I'm excited to be able to see him 2 times a year in the division. But have they really done a whole lot to upgrade their areas of weaknesses? And yes, at running back they did, but that offensive line with Hernandez and Soldier should be better. But it's still not an upper echelon offensive line, and I think you're going to need that at some point, and especially against the defensive fronts they're going to go up against within the division alone.
And you got to give up at least 4 to 5 games for that line to develop any type of cohesion.
You have to. And I don't, I'm a big Will Hernandez fan. I really am. I was hoping at some point, there was a way the Redskins could have found a way to get him, but obviously that didn't happen. But he's still a rookie at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I remember Brandon Sheriff here. When he came in here from Iowa, he was penciled in as a starter initially right away, and he played well his rookie year, but he had some growing pains. It wasn't until the second year that he went to the Pro Bowl. Last year, went to the Pro Bowl again. So you're going to see some ups and downs. I think Giants fans need to be leery, because I think a lot of Giants fans that I know think this team is getting ready to go on a Super Bowl run.
No. They said that last year going in, and it was no. And you know what? For the narrative, for the knock on Eli the last several years, and I'm the biggest Eli fan out there, he knows he has to play better, but I am curious to see him upright with a line and a running back that has a potential for big gains, at least touching the ball 25 to 30 times a game. With that being said, you're right. I mean, they've got question marks. What about Dallas now? And we were talking about this. Prescott, his first year, really exceeded expectations. 4th-round draft pick, played out of his mind. He had the line. He had Elliott. You lose Elliott a bit last year. Now you lose Witten. You lose Bryant. I think people are waiting to see, will the real Dak Prescott stand up? Like, who is he? Is he the guy 2 years ago or last year that struggled a little bit getting the ball down the field?
That's a great question. And again, that's another team that I'm not sold on. I'm not sure about. And I say this because I do like Dak Prescott. But I also know they're playing without Jason Witten this year. And I don't care what anybody says. That was the glue to everything for the Cowboys for years. And you don't have that. Not just his game on the field. We're talking about a Hall of Fame type, tight end. I think he definitely will get into the Hall of Fame. But we're talking about a locker room leader as well, a guy like Dak Prescott could lean on for advice, just to stay calm in certain situations. And they don't have that, nor do they have a combustible Des Bryant. I understand that too, but you're devoid of personalities on your offense. I mean, if you think now that it's Zeke's offense, Ezekiel Elliott, he's a running back. Those aren't the guys that normally are vocal for anything. So this is Dak Prescott's team. Make no mistake about it. But I need to see him. I need to see him rebound a little bit. I think last year we saw a lot of deficiencies in his game. We saw what he didn't do well, and I think teams exploited that a little bit. So this year, can he take that step in his third year and kind of get back to the consistency he played with in his rookie year? Then Dallas has a chance. I will say this, and I've said this all off season. The NFC East is the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, everyone knows they're a Super Bowl contender again. They're going to win the division hands down, no questions asked. That's my opinion.
Okay.
But I do think the Redskins, the Cowboys, and the Giants all are capable of being a wild card team. I truly believe that, and I'm going out on record and saying one of those teams will be a wild card contender and make the playoffs. It's just which one we don't know. But it will come down, in my opinion, between those three. It's going to come down to who has the most consistent quarterback play. And that's where I kind of lean towards the guy here now because he's a 14-year veteran.
All right. Over a guy that's won 2 Super Bowls.
Well, a guy that's won 2 Super Bowls that is clearly on the downside of his career. Alex Smith had his best year of his career last year. And this team has,
I know what you're saying, and we can probably argue this. It's great bar talk, but I still go back to losing basically every wide receiver, no line, no ground game the past 2 years. What quarterback can thrive in that?
Well, see, and this is what my argument has been for Alex Smith since he was in Kansas City. Last year was the first year. Let's call it like it is. Last year was the first year that he had a full complement of talent around him, where he had a fast receiver in Tyreek Hill. He had a rookie running back in Kareem Hunt, Pro Bowl tight end in Travis Kelce. You know what? It stopped right there. I just named those 3. Albert Wilson was nice. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But you look at this team here, the talent that he's playing with, he has a running back in Chris Thompson. He would have had guys. He's got a Pro Bowl tight end in Jordan Reed. He's got a really good backup tight end in Vernon Davis, who he's played with. And he's got a young group of wide receivers that I think, by and large, collectively are more talented than what he had in Kansas City last year. So, and it's Jay Gruden's offense. I mean, this is a quarterback-friendly offense. No matter who's been in it, they've thrown for 4,000 yards. Cousins did it 3 times. Andy Dalton did it as a rookie in Cincinnati. So I just think everything's tailor-made for the Redskins, barring no injuries, to be a much better football team than they were last year. And we saw them early last year before the injury hit them. They were really competitive, and they looked like a different football team. But this team this year, I've seen every day for the last 3 weeks in training camp and in the preseason game, they're way more talented than that team last. They just put it together on Sundays.
No, you're there every day, so we certainly take your word for it. All right, be careful who you text. We will do it again. We will do it again next Wednesday. Always appreciate a couple moments, pal. Keep up the great work covering the Skins in the NFL. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, you got it. Lake Lewis, always good stuff with him.